You're listening to AI Signals, Daily Dose. OpenAI just shipped a model that can use your computer better than you can, not metaphorically. On the OS World benchmark, which tests whether an AI can actually navigate a desktop, click buttons, fill out forms, and get real work done, GPT 5.4 scored 75%. The human baseline, 72.4. Let that sink in for a second. This is your Daily Dose. OpenAI's GPT 5.4 just dropped, and it represents something bigger than a version bump. We're talking about the end of the specialist model era, a machine that uses your computer better than most people, and the messy political backdrop that almost overshadowed the whole thing. Let's get into it. So here's the big picture. For the last 2 years, if you wanted to use OpenAI's models, you had to make choices. Do I want GPT for general conversation? Do I want the O series for hard reasoning problems? Do I want Codex for writing code? Each model was a specialist. You'd switch between them depending on what you needed. And honestly, most people just picked one and stuck with it, because the switching cost was annoying. GPT 5.4 ends that. OpenAI is calling it their most capable and efficient frontier model for professional work. And for once, that marketing line actually maps to something real. This is the first model from OpenAI that merges advanced reasoning, coding, agentic tool use, and native computer operation into a single system. You don't pick a mode. You don't route to a specialist. You just ask, and the model figures out whether to think harder, write code, or literally take control of your screen. It comes in 3 flavors. GPT 5.4 Standard is available to everyone through the API and ChatGPT. GPT 5.4 Thinking adds extended reasoning, sort of like what the old O series models did. And that's available to Plus, Teams, and Pro subscribers. Then there's GPT 5.4 Pro, the full power version, available through the API and to enterprise and EDU users. The API version supports up to 1 million tokens of context, which is by far the largest window OpenAI has ever offered. And the performance numbers are legitimately impressive. On GDPval, which tests AI against real professionals across 44 different occupations, spanning the top 9 GDP industries in the US, GPT 5.4 matched or exceeded human professionals 83% of the time. That's up from 70.9% on GPT 5.2. Individual factual claims are 33% less likely to be false. Full responses are 18% less likely to contain errors. And it's more token efficient, meaning it actually costs less to run for the same quality of output. But here's the thing. The benchmarks, while impressive, aren't really the story. On coding, Claude Opus 4.6 and Gemini 3.1 Pro are neck and neck at the top. On abstract reasoning, Gemini leads. On tool-enabled reasoning, Claude has the edge. What makes GPT 5.4 different isn't that it's the best at any one thing. It's that it's really good at everything, all at once, in one model. And that's a fundamentally different product proposition. All right, now let's talk about the part that genuinely surprised me, the computer use capabilities. We've seen computer use from AI before. Anthropic shipped it with Claude last year. But OpenAI's implementation in GPT 5.4 is the first time a general-purpose model has been able to operate a computer at or above human level on a standardized benchmark. On OS World Verified, it hit 75%. Humans score 72.4. That is not a small gap, on a benchmark where, just one model generation ago, GPT 5.2 was stuck at 47.3%. What does this actually mean in practice? GPT 5.4 can look at screenshots of your desktop, figure out what's on screen, and issue mouse clicks and keyboard commands to accomplish tasks. It can also write code to automate things through tools like Playwright. So it has 2 modes of computer interaction: the visual, screenshot-based approach for navigating GUIs, and the programmatic approach for more complex automation. Think about what this unlocks for agents. Until now, AI agents hit a wall every time they encountered software that didn't have an API. Need to file an expense report in some legacy enterprise system? The AI couldn't help. Need to navigate a government website to download a form? Out of luck. With native computer use baked into the model, those barriers dissolve. The AI can just use the software the same way you would. And OpenAI paired this with their MCP integration. On 250 tasks from Scale's MCP Atlas benchmark, running with 36 MCP servers enabled, a tool search configuration reduced total token usage by 47% while hitting the same accuracy. That's the kind of efficiency gain that makes agentic workflows actually viable at scale, because the cost doesn't explode when you give the model access to dozens of tools. So what does this mean for you? If you're building agents or automation workflows, GPT-5.4 just became the most practical foundation model for anything that involves interacting with real software. Not because it's the smartest model on paper, but because it can actually do the work. There's a difference between a model that reasons brilliantly in a chat window and one that can log into your CRM and update a deal record. GPT 5.4 is a serious step toward the second category. Now, I'd be giving you an incomplete picture if I didn't talk about the elephant in the room. Because GPT 5.4 launched into the middle of a firestorm. About a week before this release, on February 27th, Anthropic walked away from a deal with the Pentagon. The sticking point was reportedly that the Department of Defense refused to include contractual language explicitly prohibiting autonomous weapons deployment and mass surveillance of American citizens. Within hours, OpenAI stepped in and signed its own deal. The backlash was immediate and intense. A movement called QuitGPT gained traction online. According to organizers, more than 2.5 million people either canceled their ChatGPT subscriptions or publicly pledged to stop using the platform. Sam Altman went on the record with CNBC, admitting the deal, quote, looked opportunistic and sloppy, end quote. OpenAI has since amended the contract, saying their tools won't be used by intelligence agencies, among other changes. But the damage to trust was real. Protests are being organized, and the momentum doesn't appear to be fading. And some early reviewers of GPT 5.4 have noted a tension in the model itself. Critics say OpenAI loosened the model to be more conversational, and that it occasionally confabulates, leaks system prompts, or adds features nobody asked for. Here's why this matters beyond the politics. We're entering an era where these models can use your computer. They can act on your behalf. They can interact with your files, your email, your bank. The trust question isn't abstract anymore. When you give a model computer use capabilities, you're giving it agency in the most literal sense. And the company behind that model just demonstrated that it'll sign a defense contract in under 24 hours if a competitor walks away from one. That's the kind of context that reasonable people are going to weigh when deciding which AI platform to build their workflows on. I'm not telling you what to think about this. Smart people disagree. Some say OpenAI is being pragmatic about working with government. Others say the speed of the decision revealed misaligned priorities. But I will say this. The technical achievement of GPT 5.4 is real and significant. And it's arriving at a moment when the conversation about what these models should be used for has never been louder. So here's the big picture for today. GPT 5.4 is a genuinely important release, not because it tops every benchmark, but because it's the clearest signal yet that the era of picking between specialist models is ending. One model that reasons, codes, browses, and uses your computer. That's the product now. Keep an eye on two things going forward. First, how Anthropic and Google respond. Claude and Gemini both have areas where they still lead, and the competitive pressure just ratcheted up. Second, watch the QuitGPT movement. If subscription cancellations actually hit OpenAI's revenue in a measurable way, that will reshape how every AI company thinks about defense contracts and public trust. If you found this useful, share it with someone who's trying to make sense of the AI landscape right now. I'll be back with your next dose soon. Until then, stay curious.